At the heart of San Francisco's tech conference buzz, Dr. Clara Hargrove stood on stage, a whirlwind of eccentricity and brilliance. Clad in a bright orange lab coat dotted with neon green patches, her wild, curly hair seemed to have a life of its own, bouncing as she paced in front of the microphone. A large screen behind her flashed the logo of her invention, ElectoPredict. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'll reveal how we can predict the winner of any election with just a few clicks. Yes, even that one time my cat chose the candidate by batting at their posters. She gestured animatedly, and the audience erupted in laughter. It was the kind of laughter that felt like a warm hug, a little unexpected and absolutely refreshing. As Clara unveiled graphs that danced and twirled on the screen, her excitement was palpable. She talked about algorithms and data, the science behind it all, but it was her spontaneous jokes that kept everyone engaged. Imagine if we used this technology to predict our weekend plans. It could save so much time, like knowing in advance whether you should stay home binge-watching cat videos or risk socializing. The laughter reached a crescendo when she accidentally knocked over a stack of pamphlets, sending them cascading like confetti. Ah! Just a demonstration of how messy democracy can be, she quipped, earning another round of chuckles. But Clara was serious about her work. She had poured years into developing this technology, hoping it would foster fairer elections. Then entered Evan Thompson, a silver-tongued politician known more for his charm than his principles. He swaggered onto the stage, exuding confidence. Clara. Brilliant presentation. I'd love to collaborate on a little project. Imagine harnessing ElectoPredict for my campaign. I mean, it's not just about winning, it's about redefining what winning means. The crowd clapped, caught in the magnetic pull of Evan's charisma. Clara, however, felt a twinge of skepticism. Did he really want to improve democracy, or was he just looking for an edge? She glanced at him, noting the glint in his eye that suggested he saw opportunities where others saw ethics. Days turned into weeks, and Clara found herself swept up in a whirlwind of meetings and media attention. Her technology took off like a rocket, and she became something of a celebrity. Talk shows invited her to discuss her invention, where she continued to blend humor with serious discourse. It's like we're in a sci-fi movie, except the robots are controlling the elections instead of the other way around, she joked, but inside, she began to feel the weight of her creation. As the debates raged nationwide about the ethical implications of using predictive technology in politics, Clara's inbox flooded with messages. Some praised her genius, while others warned of the potential for abuse. Clara, once merely a scientist, now found herself at the center of a moral storm. One evening, as she sat at her cluttered desk, papers strewn about like fallen leaves, she discovered something unsettling. While analyzing the data patterns, she noticed a troubling trend. Evan's team was manipulating ElectoPredict to bolster his campaign by leaking fabricated, insider information about opponents, skewing public perception. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just a theoretical debate anymore. It was real, and it was dangerous. Clara decided it was time to confront Evan. During a live debate that had captivated the nation, she found herself face to face with him again, the studio lights bright and the audience buzzing. With cameras rolling, Clara's heart raced. This was her moment. Evan, she began, her voice steady despite the butterflies, your team has been using my technology to spread misinformation. That's not just unethical, it's a betrayal of everything democracy stands for. Evan, ever the showman, tried to twist the narrative. Clara, don't you think it's essential to use all tools at our disposal? Isn't that what winning is all about? His slick smile sent a shiver down her spine. She didn't back down. Winning at the cost of truth is not winning at all. You're making a mockery of our electoral process." The audience gasped, and the tension in the studio crackled like static electricity. Clara could feel the eyes of millions glued to the screen, her words resonating beyond the walls of the studio. Evan laughed, but it was a hollow sound. "You're passionate, I'll give you that. But passion doesn't win elections." With a flourish, Clara retorted, "Perhaps, but integrity does." The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of support surging towards her. Clara had turned the tide, and in that moment, she knew she was not just a scientist, she was an advocate for ethical responsibility in technology. After the debate, the fallout was immediate. Social media exploded with hashtags like integrity in tech and truth over victory. Clara was hailed as a hero, while Evan's reputation began to crumble. But with the public attention came a heavy realization: she had a responsibility to ensure her technology was used ethically, no matter the cost. In the days that followed, Clara collaborated with a diverse group of activists and fellow scientists, forming a coalition aimed at establishing guidelines for the ethical use of technology in elections. Their mission was clear: to ensure that Electopredict, and similar technologies, would empower democracy, not undermine it. As Clara took on this new role, she reflected on her journey. From an eccentric scientist cracking jokes at a tech conference to a key figure in a nationwide movement, her path had taken a turn she had never anticipated. But as she stood in front of her new team, surrounded by passionate individuals from all walks of life, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Yet even in moments of triumph, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over. The world of politics was murky, and she had opened a door that led to questions she couldn't yet answer. One afternoon, in a rare moment of quiet, Clara stared at her computer screen, the words of a new manifesto taking shape in front of her. "Technology should serve humanity, not the other way around," she typed, feeling the weight of every letter. But as she hit save, her phone buzzed. Evan had issued a statement, trying to reframe the narrative once again. "Oh boy," Clara muttered, rolling her eyes. "Here we go again." The fun was just beginning. Clara took a deep breath, scrolling through Evan's statement. His smooth words danced across the screen, claiming he had only sought to innovate the electoral process and that Clara had misunderstood his intentions. "It's a classic case of scapegoating the messenger," he wrote, emphasizing that he would continue to leverage technology for his campaign, regardless of what Clara had alleged. "Unbelievable," she muttered, shaking her head. How could he twist the truth so effortlessly? The frustration bubbled within her, but she knew that anger wouldn't solve anything. Instead, she grabbed her phone and called her closest ally, Dr. Nathan Zhao, a brilliant data analyst who had been instrumental in her project. "Hey, Clara. What's up?" Nathan's cheerful voice crackled through the speaker. "Did you see Evan's latest statement? He's painting himself as the misunderstood innovator. We need to respond, something that underscores the ethical implications of his actions," Clara replied, pacing her small office. "I'm on it. I've been compiling data on public sentiment since the debate. Let's find a way to show the truth behind his manipulation," Nathan said, his enthusiasm infectious. Clara's heart raced at the thought of turning the tide once more. They quickly brainstormed ideas, crafting a concise yet impactful response. Clara wanted to make it clear that this was about more than just politics, it was about the integrity of their democratic process. Later that evening, Clara posted a video addressing Evan's statement. She stood in her cluttered office, her orange lab coat still on, but now with a serious expression. "Hi everyone. It's Clara Hargrove, and I want to talk about the importance of ethics in technology, especially in our electoral process. My invention, Electopredict, was designed to enhance democracy, not to be weaponized against it. Let's remember, if we allow misinformation to guide our choices, we risk everything we hold dear. The video went viral within hours, sparking heated discussions across social media platforms. Clara's honesty resonated with many who were tired of the political gamesmanship. But Evan was not one to back down easily. Within days, he released another statement, framing himself as a champion of innovation fighting against a so-called establishment determined to stifle progress. Is he serious? Clara exclaimed, flopping back onto her couch in disbelief. He's trying to play the underdog? Classic deflection, Nathan said, shaking his head as he joined Clara for a meeting in her office. But it's working. He's gaining traction with certain demographics who buy into that narrative. We need to counteract it with facts. Clara's determination solidified. They needed to showcase the real implications of using predictive technology unethically. The next day, they organized a press conference, inviting journalists and influential tech bloggers to attend. They presented a detailed report outlining how misinformation campaigns could manipulate public perception, using ElectoPredict as a case study. As Clara stepped up to the podium, she felt the familiar thrill of adrenaline. Thank you all for coming. Today, we're not just talking about technology, we're discussing the future of our democracy. Predictive technology, if misused, can create a false reality, leading voters to make decisions based on lies rather than facts. We cannot let that happen. With Nathan at her side, they revealed data that illustrated how certain narratives were pushed into the public sphere by artificially amplifying them through social media bots and targeted ads. The crowd was silent as the evidence unfolded, the weight of it sinking in. After the press conference, Clara received an influx of messages from fellow scientists, activists, and even some politicians expressing their support. But amid the praise, she noticed a darker undercurrent. A few messages hinted at threats, warnings to back off or risk personal and professional repercussions. Is this the new normal? She asked Nathan later, as they reviewed their strategy over coffee. Can we not challenge unethical practices without facing pushback? It seems so, but it's a risk worth taking, he replied, his tone resolute. If we don't stand up for what's right, who will? Clara nodded, determination flooding her. They decided to hold a town hall meeting, inviting the public to discuss the ethical use of technology in politics. It was a bold move, but Clara wanted to engage directly with the community, to ensure their voices were heard and that they understood the stakes involved. The town hall was held in a local community center, packed with residents eager to learn about the technology and its implications. Clara stood before them, nervous but excited. This isn't just about ElectoPredict, it's about all technology and how it can impact our lives, she began. Let's talk about how we can work together to ensure transparency and integrity in our electoral processes. As she spoke, she noticed the diverse crowd, young students, older voters, families, and activists, all listening intently. Clara opened the floor for questions, and hands shot up. One young woman asked, "What can we do to help make sure our elections are fair?" Clara smiled, buoyed by the enthusiasm. You can advocate for transparency. Ask your local representatives about their policies on technology use in elections. Demand accountability. The conversation flowed, ideas bouncing back and forth like a lively game of catch. Clara felt invigorated, realizing how important it was to empower the community with knowledge. But then, amid the excitement, she noticed a familiar face in the back, the shadow of Evan Thompson, lurking, listening. She felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. Was he here to stir trouble or to intimidate? Clara pressed on, maintaining her focus on the attendees, reminding herself that their voices mattered far more than his. After the meeting, as people dispersed and shared their thoughts, Evan approached her, his expression unreadable. "Quite the show, Clara. Rallying the troops against me, are we?" His smile was charming but insincere, just encouraging people to think critically about their choices, Clara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Critical thinking? Or are you just trying to sabotage my campaign?" He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice as if they were sharing a secret. Clara's pulse quickened. "I'm trying to protect democracy, Evan. Something you seem to have forgotten in your pursuit of power." He chuckled, a sound that didn't reach his eyes. "Power is a game, my dear. And you're just one player trying to rewrite the rules. But be careful. The game can turn on you in an instant." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Clara unsettled but resolute. She had no intention of backing down. In the following weeks, the movement Clara had ignited continued to grow. More towns held their own meetings, and grassroots organizations sprang up, all advocating for ethical practices in the use of technology. Clara found herself in a whirlwind of activity, giving interviews, writing articles, and meeting with lawmakers to push for new regulations. Yet, as the movement gained momentum, Clara felt the pressure mounting. The threats continued, escalating to the point where she started to receive calls late at night, anonymous voices warning her to stop what she was doing. Each time, she would hang up, heart racing, but resolve hardening. One evening, after a long day, Clara sat in her office, surrounded by stacks of research papers and notes. The weight of it all pressed down on her, and for a moment, she allowed herself to feel the exhaustion. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Nathan, and the urgency in his message drew her attention. "Clara, you need to see this. Evan's team is planning something big. They're set to launch a counter-campaign that could undermine everything we've built." Her heart sank. "What do you mean?" "They're planning to discredit our research, paint us as alarmists. We have to act fast." Clara's mind raced. They had to counter this narrative before it gained traction. She called an emergency meeting with her team, bringing together activists, tech experts, and data analysts to strategize. "We need to present our findings clearly and counter Evan's claims with hard evidence," Clara said, her voice steady despite the chaos inside. "Let's launch a campaign of our own, something that shows people the truth behind our research and the real risks of manipulating technology for political gain." With renewed energy, the team got to work. They crafted a series of videos highlighting personal stories from citizens affected by misinformation, combined with solid data showing the potential impact of unchecked technology in elections. Clara personally narrated each piece, pouring her heart into the message. As the new campaign launched, Clara felt a surge of hope. The response was immediate. People began sharing their own experiences, rallying together in support of transparency and accountability. Clara realized that this was bigger than just her or Evan. It was about the collective voice of the people demanding better. But just when things seemed to be turning in their favor, Clara received a call that made her blood run cold. Nathan was on the other end, his voice frantic. "Clara. They've escalated. There was a break-in at the office. They took all our research files." Her stomach dropped. "What? How could this happen?" "I don't know, but we need to secure everything and go public with this immediately. They're trying to silence us." Clara felt the walls closing in, but she refused to give in to fear. "We won't be silenced. Let's meet and figure out our next steps." That night, as they gathered in her office, Clara could see the worry etched on Nathan's face. This is getting serious. They're willing to go to extremes. We have to keep pushing back. We need to show them we're not afraid, Clara replied, her resolve hardening. Let's leverage this. We can't let them control the narrative. Together, they devised a plan. They would go public not only about the break-in but also about the underlying issues of corruption and the unethical manipulation of technology in politics. They would make their voices louder than ever. As Clara stood in front of the camera again, addressing the public with the gravity of the situation hanging in the air, she felt a sense of determination wash over her. This isn't just about a political campaign, it's about our right to a fair democracy. We will not let fear dictate our actions. We will expose the truth. The response was electric. Citizens rallied behind Clara, flooding social media with support. They organized protests and wrote letters to their representatives, demanding accountability and ethical standards in technology. As the movement gained momentum, Evan's campaign started to falter. The polls showed a shift in public sentiment. People were no longer willing to accept his tactics. Clara watched the news coverage with a mix of pride and apprehension. The tide was turning, but she knew that the battle was far from over. In the final stretch before the election, Clara found herself at a rally, speaking to a crowd energized and eager for change. Together, we can redefine what it means to engage in democracy. Let's demand transparency, let's demand integrity. Our voices matter. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Clara felt a swell of hope. But then, in the distance, she spotted Evan, watching from the shadows, a predatory glint in his eyes. She steeled herself. This fight was personal now. The election day arrived, charged with anticipation and anxiety. Clara had spent countless hours preparing, but nothing could ease the tension as the results began to roll in. As the night progressed, Clara watched the numbers fluctuate on a giant screen in a crowded venue. The atmosphere was electric, filled with nervous laughter and hopeful chatter. Finally, the moment came when the announcer declared the results. Evan's campaign had lost. Clara felt a mix of relief and disbelief wash over her. But amid the celebration, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the battle for ethics in technology was just beginning. As she stepped outside into the cool night air, Nathan joined her, both of them breathless from the chaos of the evening. We did it, he said, grinning. Yes, but this is only the start. We need to ensure that this doesn't happen again. We need lasting change. Nathan nodded, the weight of their shared resolve clear. Let's make sure we build something sustainable, a framework for ethics in tech that lasts beyond this election. Clara smiled, feeling the pulse of possibility. Together, we can create something that will empower future generations. We can shape the conversation around technology and democracy. As the cheers from the venue echoed in the background, Clara looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than ever. This was her moment, and it was just the beginning, and while Evan's shadow may linger, she was ready to face whatever came next.